The galaxy laughed when the alien emperor spent 1 billion credits on a human slave. But 3 days later, the greatest empire in history collapsed, and the emperor discovered the human had planned everything centuries before he was born. The auction hall was packed with nobles, merchants, warlords, and collectors from every corner of known space. They had gathered for a single reason: to witness the sale of the last human. Inside a transparent containment chamber stood a young man wearing simple gray clothing, armored, weapons, implants, fear. The crowd laughed openly. Humans were extinct. Every history record said so. 500 years ago, the Dominion Empire destroyed Earth, conquered the colonies, and erased humanity from the stars. At least, that was the official story. The auction master proudly raised his hands and introduced the human to the audience. Bidding started low because nobody wanted him. The galaxy humans were weak, primitive, forgotten. Then the doors opened. The laughter stopped. The alien emperor entered the hall. He ruled 12,000 star systems, commanded the largest military ever assembled, and had never lost a war. Everyone immediately bowed except one person: the human. The emperor noticed instantly that he walked closer and studied the young man carefully. The human looked directly into his eyes without hesitation. For the first time in years, the emperor felt something unusual: curiosity. Then he shocked the entire galaxy by offering 1 billion credits. The auction ended immediately. The human became property of the emperor. As guards escorted him toward the royal transport, the emperor finally asked a question: "What is your name?" The human answered, "My name is Ethan." The emperor nodded. "You understand that you belong to me now?" Ethan smiled. "No." The emperor frowned. Everyone nearby froze. Then Ethan calmly continued, "You belong to me. You just don't know it yet." The emperor stared at Ethan for several seconds. No one had ever spoken to him like that, and no one had ever survived speaking to him like that either. Yet something prevented him from giving the order to execute the human. Then every light inside the auction station suddenly went dark. The crowd panicked. Emergency alarms erupted across the facility. Guards rushed to defensive positions. The emperor activated his personal scanner and immediately froze. Hundreds of warships had appeared outside the station. They had not arrived through hyperspace. They had not emerged from cloaking fields. They had simply appeared as if they had always been there waiting. The station commander turned pale. "We have no identification on the fleet." The emperor looked toward Ethan. "Who are they?" Ethan calmly looked out the massive observation window. "They are mine." The entire room fell silent. Then a transmission arrived on every screen inside the station. Priority message. Authentication confirmed. Human command authority recognized. "Welcome back, Director Ethan." The crowd stared at the screens, unable to comprehend what they were hearing. Human command. Humanity was extinct. IT had been extinct for 500 years. Then more signals arrived. Thousands of them. Hidden stations awakened across the galaxy. Secret shipyards powered online. Forgotten relay networks activated. Planets believed abandoned suddenly transmitted encrypted human codes. One by one, ancient markers began appearing across the galactic map. The emperor watched in disbelief as hundreds became thousands, then tens of thousands. Finally, the intelligence officer spoke. "That's impossible. The number of human-controlled systems now exceeds 7,000." The room exploded into chaos. Ethan remained perfectly calm. 500 years earlier, humanity had not been destroyed. Humanity had disappeared intentionally. While the Dominion Empire celebrated victory, humanity vanished into deep space. Hidden colonies were built beyond known space. New fleets were constructed. New technologies were developed. And for 5 centuries, every major government in the galaxy unknowingly followed a future designed by human planners. Then the emperor finally understood. "You planned this." Ethan nodded. "Yes." The emperor looked toward the observation window. The unknown fleet surrounding the station stretched in every direction. Black warships larger than cities hung silently in space. Their hulls carried no visible weapons, yet every scanner reading showed power levels beyond anything the Empire possessed. Then another message appeared on every screen. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 authorized. Ethan smiled for the first time. The smile made even the Emperor uncomfortable, because it was the smile of someone whose plan was working exactly as intended. The smile disappeared as quickly as it appeared. Then Ethan turned toward the observation window. and watched the fleet in silence. The Emperor studied him carefully, trying to understand how a single human could control an operation hidden for 500 years. But the more he thought about it, the worse the situation became. Because if humanity had spent 5 centuries preparing in secret, then everything the galaxy believed was a lie. Then the first reports arrived. Emergency transmissions flooded the Imperial network. Border worlds were surrendering without resistance. Military governors were abandoning their posts. Fleet commanders were shutting down their weapons systems. The Emperor immediately demanded an explanation. None came. Then intelligence officers discovered the truth. Human agents had infiltrated the Empire generations earlier. Not hundreds, not thousands, millions. They had become merchants, scientists, engineers, politicians, admirals, and advisors. They had quietly shaped history from the shadows for centuries. Every major government in the galaxy had been influenced by people who were secretly working for humanity. The Emperor felt genuine fear for the first time in his life. This was not an invasion. It was a takeover that had already happened. Then another alert appeared that a classified Imperial shipyard containing the newest battleship fleet had switched allegiance. The crews had revealed themselves as human descendants. Hidden codes activated across the fleet. Command authority transferred instantly. Without a single shot fired, the Empire lost 3,000 warships. Then another sector surrendered. Then another. Then another. The galactic map began changing by the minute. Systems that had belonged to the Empire for centuries suddenly displayed a new symbol: a silver Earth surrounded by stars. The symbol of the Human Directorate. Ethan finally spoke. Humans learned something important after the war. The Emperor looked at him. What? Ethan kept watching the stars. Conquering worlds is expensive. Influencing them is free. Then the largest alert of all arrived. The Imperial capital itself had gone silent. Communications were lost. Security networks disabled. Defense satellites shut down. The Emperor immediately contacted the capital. No response. Then a final transmission appeared across every screen in the station. The image showed the Imperial Senate chamber, the heart of the Empire. Hundreds of senators stood silently as a single figure walked toward the central platform. The Emperor recognized him instantly. It was his most trusted advisor, the man who had served beside him for 40 years. The advisor looked directly into the camera and smiled. Today, humanity returns. Then he revealed a small silver emblem hidden beneath his uniform, the symbol of Earth. The Emperor suddenly realized the terrible truth. He had not lost control 3 days ago. He had lost control decades ago and never knew it. The Emperor felt the floor disappear beneath him. For 40 years, his most trusted advisor had stood beside him. For 40 years, he had helped shape imperial policy, command military campaigns, and oversee the largest empire in galactic history. And the entire time, he had been human. Then new transmissions flooded every screen across the station. They came from every direction, every sector, every fleet, every major world. Human operatives were revealing themselves. Everywhere, governors, admirals, scientists, bankers, generals. Some had spent entire lifetimes waiting for this moment. Others were descendants of agents who had died centuries earlier protecting the plan. The Emperor finally understood the true scale of what humanity had done. They had not hidden from the galaxy. They had quietly become part of it. Then the station trembled. An enormous shadow passed over the observation window. The crowd turned and gasped that a ship had arrived. But calling it a ship felt wrong. It was larger than entire cities. Its dark metallic hull stretched beyond visual range. Thousands of lights glowed across its surface like stars. That a symbol slowly illuminated near the bow. A silver Earth surrounded by a ring of blue light. Ethan looked up and smiled. The flagship had arrived. The Emperor stared at the giant vessel. What is that? Ethan answered with complete calm. That is Horizon. The first ship humanity built after disappearing 500 years ago. It was the beginning. Today it is only one of thousands. The Emperor watched more shadows appear behind it, then more, then hundreds. The darkness outside filled with human warships. They emerged from hidden jump points surrounding the system. Black battlecruisers, carriers, dreadnoughts, and vessels so large that scanners struggled to classify them. The station commander suddenly shouted, "We are detecting over 100,000 human ships entering local space." The room erupted into panic. 100,000 warships was enough to conquer entire regions of the galaxy. But Ethan didn't even react, because he knew the real fleet had not arrived yet. Then every screen across the station changed, and a new image appeared. A woman wearing a dark military uniform stood before a massive star map. Her hair was silver, her expression cold, calm, confident. The entire galaxy immediately received the transmission that my name is Director Nova. She paused for several seconds, allowing the message to spread. Today, humanity officially returns. Silence followed. Then she continued. 500 years ago, the galaxy believed humanity was defeated. That belief was necessary, because while others celebrated victory, we built something greater. We built patience. The star map behind her illuminated. Thousands of hidden human worlds appeared simultaneously. Everyone watching gasped. The map kept expanding. More colonies, more fleets, more shipyards, more worlds. Finally, the count stopped. 23,000 human-controlled systems. The Empire only controlled 12,000. That the Emperor felt his stomach drop. Humanity had already become the largest power in the galaxy, and nobody had noticed. The Emperor refused to surrender. Within hours, every remaining Imperial fleet received a single command: destroy humanity. The largest military mobilization in galactic history began. Thousands of shipyards switched to wartime production. Billions of soldiers prepared for battle. Trillions of civilians watched in fear as the galaxy moved toward war. Then the Emperor personally addressed every system under his control that he promised victory, he promised revenge, he promised humanity would disappear forever. The speech inspired millions, but it changed nothing. Because while the Emperor was speaking, human forces continued taking control of entire sectors without firing a shot. World after world voluntarily joined the Human Directorate. Governments that had secretly cooperated with human agents for generations openly switched sides. The Empire was losing territory faster than its fleets could respond. Then the first battle finally began. At the edge of the Orion sector, an Imperial armada consisting of 8,000 warships encountered a human fleet less than half its size. The Imperial admirals celebrated. They believed numerical superiority guaranteed victory. Then combat started. The human fleet moved with impossible precision. Every ship acted as if controlled by a single mind. Missiles intercepted missiles before launch. Railgun rounds struck critical systems with surgical accuracy. Shields collapsed. Fleets shattered. Within 20 minutes, the Imperial Armada ceased to exist. News of the defeat spread instantly. More battles followed. The results remained the same. Human fleets won every engagement regardless of numbers. The Emperor demanded answers. Scientists searched desperately for an explanation. Then intelligence discovered something terrifying. Human warships were connected through a quantum tactical network, an artificial intelligence system capable of processing battle information across entire sectors in real time. Every human vessel shared information instantly. The fleet did not fight as thousands of ships that it fought as one. Then another emergency report arrived that a classified Imperial research facility had been captured. Before retreating, the scientists transmitted a warning to the Emperor. Humanity has completed Project Ascension. The Emperor immediately ordered all information regarding the project brought to him. What he read made his blood run cold. 5 centuries earlier, humanity had started developing something far beyond warships, far beyond weapons. They had been building a civilization designed to survive forever. Then another transmission arrived from Director Nova. This time her expression was serious. The age of empires is over. The age of humanity has begun. Behind her, a new image appeared, a giant structure orbiting a distant star. At first, the Emperor thought it was a planet. Then he realized it was artificial. The object surrounded the entire star, harvesting its energy. The room fell silent. A Dyson sphere, a structure considered impossible even in theory. Humanity had not spent 500 years hiding. They had spent 500 years becoming unstoppable. The image of the Dyson sphere spread across the galaxy within minutes. Billions stared at their screens, unable to believe what they were seeing. The structure completely surrounded a star, capturing nearly all of its energy. Output estimates shattered every scientific model ever created. The Empire had spent centuries fighting over resources. Humanity had simply built its own sun. Then new data arrived. And the situation became even worse. That Dyson sphere was not unique. It was the smallest one. The Emperor watched as additional structures appeared across the star map. 1, then 3, then 7, then 12, that entire stars hidden behind colossal engineering projects. The energy production exceeded the combined output of every major galactic power. The realization hit like a weapon. Humanity was no longer competing with the galaxy. Humanity had outgrown it. Then alarms suddenly erupted throughout the Imperial Command Network. An unidentified object had entered Imperial space. The object was moving. Slowly, NO weapons detected, NO shields detected, NO escorts detected. T-first commanders ignored it. Then the scans completed. The room became silent. The object was larger than a moon. The Emperor immediately ordered visual confirmation. The image appeared on the main screen, a perfect metallic sphere floating through space. Its surface was covered in endless geometric patterns and glowing blue lines. NO engines were visible, NO windows, NO markings. Then a message arrived. This vessel belongs to Project Ascension. Do not engage. The Emperor ordered the fleet to fire anyway. Thousands of missiles launched, railguns fired. Energy weapons illuminated space. The attack struck the sphere directly, then disappeared. Not blocked, not deflected, disappeared. As if reality itself had erased them. The fleet commanders stared in shock. Then the sphere activated. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then every warship within 1,000,000 kilometers lost power. Weapons failed. Shields vanished. Engines shut down. Thousands of vessels became lifeless metal drifting through space. The Emperor could hardly breathe. "What is that?" he whispered. Ethan finally answered. The future point 500 years ago, humanity realized wars never end. Empires rise. Empires fall. Someone always returns to we stopped building weapons and started building solutions. The Emperor looked at him in disbelief. "You call that a solution?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, because it ends wars permanently." Then a final report arrived from the affected sector. The sphere had not destroyed a single ship, not one casualty, not one explosion. It had simply turned an entire fleet off, as easily as switching off a light. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. For the first time, everyone understood the truth. Humanity did not possess stronger weapons. Humanity had moved beyond war itself. The news spread faster than any battle ever could. An entire Imperial fleet had been neutralized without a single casualty. NO explosions, NO debris, NO heroic last stand. One moment the ships were combat ready. The next they were powerless metal drifting through space. Governments across the galaxy began asking the same question. How do you fight an enemy that no longer needs weapons? Then the impossible happened. System after system started leaving the Empire, voluntarily, not because human fleets threatened them, not because human soldiers occupied them. They left because humanity offered something no empire ever had: stability. For centuries, worlds had suffered under endless wars, trade disputes, political corruption, and military conflicts. Now a new power had appeared that could end all of it. The Emperor watched as more systems vanished from the Imperial map every hour. The number reached hundreds, then thousands. Then another disaster struck. The Imperial treasury collapsed. Centuries of hidden human influence had quietly connected major financial networks across the galaxy. When activation codes were transmitted, entire economic systems shifted overnight. Credits lost value. Markets froze. Trade routes changed. The Empire was bleeding from every direction. Then an emergency council assembled around the Emperor. Some advisors demanded surrender. Others demanded total war. A few suggested fleeing beyond known space. The arguments continued for hours, until the Emperor finally stood and silenced them all. That he refused to accept defeat, that he refused to believe humanity had already won. Then a classified report arrived directly from Imperial intelligence. The document contained only one sentence: humanity has not deployed its primary fleet. The room became silent. The Emperor immediately demanded clarification. Analysts revealed a terrifying discovery. The 100,000 warships currently visible represented less than 10% of known human military assets. The real fleet remained hidden. The Emperor stared at the numbers, unable to process them. That if the report was accurate, humanity possessed over 1,000,000 advanced warships, scattered across thousands of secret systems. Then the analysts revealed something worse. Humanity had not expanded for 500 years. They had expanded for much longer. The records recovered from hidden archives suggested human planners had prepared for this moment before the Great Dominion War even began. Some of their contingency plans were over 1,000 years old. The Emperor finally understood why every move he made failed. He was not fighting a civilization. He was fighting a plan older than his entire empire. Then another transmission appeared on every screen. Director Nova stood beside Ethan for the first time. The galaxy watched silently as she delivered a simple message. The human directorate does not seek conquest, we seek unity. But if forced to choose between peace and survival, that we will choose survival every time. Then the screen changed. A massive object appeared behind them. At first it looked like a star. Then observers realized the terrifying truth that it was a ship, and it was still under construction. The galaxy stared at the screen in complete silence. The object behind Director Nova was so large that most viewers assumed it was a star at least until construction vessels became visible around its surface. Then the scale became clear that it was a ship, a single ship larger than planets. The Emperor immediately ordered every available telescope, satellite, and reconnaissance network to focus on the structure. What they discovered shocked even the most experienced scientists. The vessel measured thousands of kilometers in length. Its mass exceeded entire moons. Its internal power output surpassed that of countless fleets combined. No military doctrine in galactic history had ever imagined something so enormous. Then the official designation was revealed. Arc 1. The name seemed harmless until analysts decoded its purpose. Arc 1 was not a warship. It was a mobile civilization, capable of carrying billions of people, complete ecosystems, industries, research centers, and enough resources to remain independent for centuries. It could travel beyond the galaxy itself. The Emperor suddenly understood the true purpose of Project Ascension. Humanity had not spent 500 years preparing to win a war. They had spent 500 years preparing to outlive every possible war. Then another revelation emerged. Hidden archives recovered from abandoned human facilities contained records older than expected. Much older. The documents showed that humanity had predicted the collapse of the Dominion Empire before the war even started. They had predicted future conflicts, economic crises, population shifts, and technological developments with terrifying accuracy. Some predictions were nearly 1,000 years old, yet matched reality perfectly. The Emperor felt cold. For the first time, he considered a possibility more frightening than human fleets. What if humanity had known this moment would happen? What if everything was unfolding exactly as planned? Then a message arrived from a secret Imperial observatory located at the edge of known space. The transmission carried unusual priority levels. Scientists had detected something approaching the galaxy. Something massive. At first the Emperor ignored it. The Empire was already collapsing. What threat could possibly be greater than humanity? Then the sensor data arrived. The room became silent. An enormous object was moving through intergalactic space. Its size dwarfed fleets, dwarfed planets, dwarfed anything ever recorded, the observatory estimated. Arrival within 2 years. An unknown civilization could have built something so large an unknown species could survive the journey between galaxies. The Emperor looked toward Ethan. What is that? Ethan remained silent for several seconds. Then he finally answered that we don't know. The room froze. The Emperor stared at him. You don't know. Ethan slowly shook his head. No, for 500 years humanity has been preparing for one thing. Not the Empire, not conquest, not revenge. Then every screen in the room displayed the same image. The mysterious object continued moving toward the galaxy. And for the first time since humanity revealed itself, Ethan looked worried. For the first time since humanity revealed itself, the galaxy saw uncertainty in Ethan's eyes. That terrified people more than the approaching object itself. Because if the architects of Project Ascension were worried, then the threat was beyond imagination. Within hours, every major government received the same classified briefing. The object approaching from intergalactic space was accelerating. Its speed violated several known laws of physics. Each new observation made the situation worse. The Empire stopped talking about war. The Human Directorate stopped talking about expansion. For the first time in recorded history, the entire galaxy focused on a single threat. Then humanity revealed another secret. 500 years ago, while constructing hidden colonies and fleets, human explorers had discovered ancient ruins beyond known space. Ruins older than every civilization in the galaxy combined. The ruins contained warnings. Not instructions. Not technology. Warnings. Messages left by species that no longer existed. Every message described the same thing. A civilization that traveled between galaxies, consuming resources on an unimaginable scale. Worlds vanished. Stars disappeared. Entire civilizations were erased. No survivors were ever recorded. The ancient species had given the threat a name. The Harvesters. At first, humanity believed the warnings were myths. Then they discovered evidence. Dead galaxies. Empty star systems. Regions of space where trillions of lives had simply ceased to exist. That discovery was the real reason humanity disappeared 500 years earlier. Not fear of the Empire. Fear of what was coming. The Emperor listened in stunned silence as the truth unfolded. Humanity had not spent centuries building fleets to defeat the galaxy. Humanity had spent centuries building defenses against something far worse. Then new sensor data arrived. The object approaching the galaxy was no longer one object. It was thousands. The original reading had been wrong. The massive structure was only the center of an enormous fleet. A fleet larger than anything ever assembled. The galactic map updated. Millions of incoming signatures appeared across the screen. The room went silent. No empire could fight that. No alliance could stop that. Not even humanity. Then Ethan stood. For the first time, his calm expression vanished. He looked directly at the Emperor. 500 years ago, humanity made a promise. The Emperor remained silent. Ethan continued, "If the Harvesters ever arrived, we would unite the galaxy, no matter the cost." Then another transmission appeared. Director Nova stood before the completed Arc 1. Behind her stretched endless rows of human warships. Millions of them. The largest fleet ever assembled. She delivered a simple message. All military conflicts are terminated immediately. All species are invited into the Galactic Defense Accord. Effective now. Humanity will share every technology, every resource, and every fleet under its command. Because in 2 years, none of our differences will matter. The screen changed. The approaching fleet became visible. Countless dark structures moving through the void between galaxies. Their numbers covered entire sectors of the map. For the first time in history, the galaxy stopped fearing humanity and started fearing what humanity had been preparing for all along. 2 years passed faster than anyone expected. Across the galaxy, old enemies worked side by side. Human engineers shared technologies once considered impossible. Shipyards operated without rest. Entire worlds transformed into military production centers. For the first time in history, the galaxy stood united. Not under an empire, not under a flag, but under a single goal: survival. Then the Harvesters arrived. The first vessels emerged from the darkness between galaxies. They were larger than planets. Their black surfaces absorbed light itself. Behind them came thousands more, then millions. The sensor networks failed to calculate their true numbers. Every defense fleet moved into position. Human battlecruisers, alien carriers, Imperial dreadnoughts. Millions of warships formed a defensive line stretching across dozens of star systems. Ethan stood aboard the flagship Eternity beside the Emperor and Director Nova. Nobody spoke. They simply watched as the largest fleet ever assembled approached. Then a signal appeared. Every screen in the galaxy activated simultaneously. A single symbol filled the display. No language, no warning, no threat, just a symbol. Then stars began disappearing. Entire stars, vanishing from existence as if they had never existed at all. Fear spread through every fleet. The Harvesters continued advancing. Then something impossible happened. The leading Harvester vessel stopped. Thousands of others stopped with it. A transmission followed. The message was ancient, older than any civilization alive. The signal translated itself automatically. "We are not the enemy." Silence filled every command center in the galaxy. Ethan stared at the screen. The Emperor stared at the screen. Billions watched in disbelief. Then a second message arrived. "We are the final shield." The stars ahead continued disappearing. Entire systems vanished into darkness. The Harvesters changed formation. Their fleets moved between the galaxy and the advancing darkness, as if preparing for battle. Then the truth was revealed. The harvesters had not destroyed the ancient civilizations. They had protected them. They had been fighting something far worse for millions of years. Something that consumed reality itself. Something that erased stars, planets, and entire galaxies. The ancient warnings had never been about the harvesters. They had been about what the harvesters were running from. Then space itself cracked open beyond the edge of the galaxy. A tier larger than thousands of star systems appeared in the darkness. Even the harvesters began retreating into defensive positions. For the first time, the galaxy saw fear in machines that had survived millions of years of war. Ethan looked toward the impossible rift and finally understood why humanity had spent 500 years preparing. The war against the Empire had never mattered. The return of humanity had never been the final goal. Everything had been preparation for this moment. Then an object emerged from the rift. It was larger than worlds, larger than fleets, larger than anything ever recorded. Every sensor immediately failed. Every screen flickered. Every living being watched in silence. The real enemy had arrived.